If you're just arriving here to the theater, feel free to go over to this north wall and grab some ice cream for the ice cream social. Thank you everyone for being here. We are the Dodge City Cowboy Band, and we're really happy that you're in attendance for Hoover Day today. It's a really cool tradition in Dodge City's Founders Weekend, and we're really glad to be joining our festivities with you. We are the Dodge City Cowboy Band, and we play weekly concerts in the park every Tuesday evening at 7:30. So if you're in town this next Tuesday night, feel free to catch us again there with some new music. At this time, we ask that you please stand as you're able for the playing of our national anthem and our state song, Home on the Range. For our first piece this afternoon, along the Santa Fe Trail is a Dodge City Cowboy Band classic depicting life on the Santa Fe Trail in the Old West. There is an adventure at every turn as we go from Missouri to Santa Fe. The four sections of this piece consist of Cimarron Cutoff, Mountain Vistas, Buffalo Bill, and Pikes Peak. Here's Rob Romaines, Along the Santa Fe Trail. first march this afternoon. That on? Check. Okay, there we go. I can hear myself. Our first march this afternoon is titled The Klaxon. The Klaxon by Henry Fillmore was first performed in 1930 at the Cincinnati Automobile Show. It was titled The Klaxon, or March of the Automobiles. Fillmore invented a new musical instrument for use at the show, and it was called a klaxophone, which was made up of automobile horns, or klaxons, mounted on a table and powered with an automobile battery. While the new musical instrument did not survive, the march was terrific, and it is still a very popular part of the traditional march repertoire. Here is The Klaxon by Henry Fillmore. We're going to follow that with one more march, a circus one in fact. Rough Riders by Carl King is a fast march often classified as a gallop. The gallop was a country dance style that preceded the waltz. Carl King was a self-taught musician who received occasional assistance from local Marine Band brass players. He quit school at age 14 to learn the printing trade while composing music at night as a hobby, but soon switched to playing in and composing for bands. He went on to be the conductor of the Fort Dodge Municipal Band in Iowa for 51 years. Here is one of his quicker marches, Rough Riders. The 1972 film, The Cowboys, tells the story of a grizzled veteran rancher, Will Anderson, who is almost ready to embark on a big cattle drive when his crew abruptly quits to join a gold rush. Left with no alternative, Anderson enlists the help of a group of local schoolboys. Training the youngsters to be cowboys, Anderson manages to get the drive underway, but their long journey is placed in jeopardy when the devious bandit Longhair sets his sights on stealing the herd. We hope you enjoy this arrangement of The Cowboys by John Williams. John Philip Sousa is one of the most well-known American march composers, and the Liberty Bell is one of his most recognizable marches. Sousa was composing music for an operetta at the request of celebrated comedian Francis Wilson. When they could not come to an agreement on payment, Sousa withdrew with his partially completed manuscript, which included this lively march. Sousa and one of his band's managers were in Chicago witnessing a spectacle called America when a backdrop with a huge painting of the Liberty Bell was lowered. The manager suggested that the Liberty Bell would be a good title for Sousa's new march. By coincidence, the next morning, Sousa received a letter from his wife in which she told how their son had marched in his first parade in Philadelphia, a parade honoring the return of the Liberty Bell, which had been on tour. The new march was then christened the Liberty Bell. It's so wonderful to have an actual Liberty Bell and not just a bunch of cymbal crashes. So glad we get to perform that piece. This next piece is another march, and the music is from a 1927 musical by George and Ira Gershwin, and it was also used in a 1940s film having the same name, Strike Up the Band. Here's Jerry Brubaker's arrangement of Strike Up the Band. In 1889, Frank Hatton, a former Postmaster General, and Beriah Wilkins, a former Democratic congressman from Ohio, purchased the Washington Post newspaper and requested that John Philip Sousa, the leader of the United States Marine Band at the time, compose a march for the newspaper's essay contest award ceremony in conjunction with a campaign to promote the newspaper under new ownership. Sousa obliged, and the Washington Post march was introduced at a ceremony on June 15, 1889. That is today, but several years ago, June 15th, kind of cool. It just dawned on me, sorry. It quickly became quite popular in both the United States and Europe as the standard musical accompaniment to the two-step. This led to a British journalist dubbing Sousa the March King. Sousa is honored in the Washington Post building for his contribution to the newspaper and his country. We have two more pieces to play for you this afternoon. Thank you once again for being here and enjoying the celebration of our wonderful town of Dodge City. The Cowboy Band still has plenty of other performances the rest of this summer season. On every Tuesday evening in Wright Park at 7:30, we perform a concert, and we perform for several of the Dodge City Days events as well. There's going to be a lot of fun music to listen to, new music perhaps. If you've been listening to the band for a few years recently, we always try to add new pieces, but also play some of your favorites. And so we always appreciate your comments as audience members, especially those of you that we see at every single performance. So thank you for your valuable input. We love playing movie and musical medleys. We love playing marches. But this year is really special because we actually have a piece later this July that we're premiering that was commissioned for the Cowboy Band by a really talented composer that used to be a resident here in Dodge City. And we're excited to play that for you later this season. So to be continued on that. It'll be a lot of fun. And we'll play a lot of other music that's important to the history of Dodge City as well, not just Western themes. So lots to look forward to this summer. Next, we will play a medley of Western theme music from movies. This is titled The Wild Westerns. thank you all once again for being in attendance today. We're always glad to see you. We're going to close our concert with a Dodge City Boot Hill Variety Show favorite, Down at the Long Branch Saloon. Enjoy and have a great rest of your Founders Weekend.